Hi there, my name is Margaret Bannon and I am both a teacher of tennis and yoga, and today we're going to combine these two disciplines in a little yoga for tennis. All you need for today's practice is a tennis racket and a ball. So I've got a nice ball here from Miami University where I went and played tennis. But any ball will do, and you'll notice that I'm wearing shoes. I'd say maybe barefoot's a little more ideal, but if you're practicing outside you could practice with shoes. And in addition to that, all I have is a tennis towel. So, if it's warm outside, you might use that to towel off, but it might serve as a nice support for beneath the knees when we are on the hands and knees briefly. So this is a practice that can be done for anyone. No experience is necessary, and so let's go ahead and get to it. So we're going to come onto our backs. We're going to have the ball handy. Notice how I'm bending my knees in order to come down to the ground. If my head were uncomfortable here, I could of course support beneath my head a little bit more. And I'm just going to get comfortable allowing my feet to be about hips width apart. I'm going to take a couple moments just to feel my feet, feel the heaviness of the hips, notice where my spine meets the ground. And I'll feel the back of the head heavy. And as I do, I might notice the shoulder blades, the backs of the arms. So in other words, we're just becoming a little more centered for not only our yoga practice, but if you were doing this before a tennis practice, it would help you just let go of anything that's happened in the past, anything you're concerned about in the future, and just becoming a little more present for said practices. And since the breath is also considered a tool to make that mind-body connection, I'll have you take a hold of your tennis ball for a moment and place that on the belly. So depending on the person, you might hang on to that ball just with your fingertips. Notice how my elbows are at my sides, or you could even potentially let go. And you're just using the ball to bring awareness to the breath. For example, you might notice how the tennis ball might rise a bit on inhale. The tennis ball might fall back in towards the body on exhale. Just take a couple moments to feel the breath as you might on court to bring a little more awareness to what's happening in the body. Letting go of other stressful factors that might pop up in playing a match, or just general anxieties about performing well. And so you can either stay with this natural breath, or if it feels like it's the next logical progression, you could potentially take some deeper breaths here. Again, not if it's distracting, not if it feels unnatural. If you choose that option, see if you can allow that to feel good. And you're setting your breath as a base for the rest of your practice, and so that you can come back to in moments when you need it, as you would on court. And so now go ahead and move the ball off to the side, and we'll go ahead and link a little movement to breath. So let's go ahead and draw the knees about halfway into the chest. Your arms can be at your sides, palms down, or you can even bring the arms into what we call a cactus-like shape, or even bring the hands to the belly. I'm going to use the hands to the belly option today as the cord is quite hot here beneath me. And we're just going to rock the legs over to the right a little bit. And as I exhale, I'm going to come back. Inhale, rock the legs over to the left a bit. Exhale, I'm going to come back. And let's try that 2 more times. It's not about how deep you're taking the movement. You're just trying to link the pace of the movement to the rhythm of your own breath now, rather than my call. And you're just trying to get the body prepared for some of these twisting actions we take on court. And then you'll slowly, once back at center, bring your feet back to the mat. And you'll see that my feet are about 4 or 5 inches away from the hips. And I'll come to bring the arms down at my sides. So for this next movement, we'll be raising the hips straight up and lowering them straight down. So on inhale, press into the feet, press into the arms, and go ahead and lift the hips up and away from the mat. Exhaling, you'll lower yourself down. Let's try that a couple more times, moving on breath, maybe even coming up a little higher if it's appropriate. This is a nice posture to balance out all of our bent knee movements in tennis. Let's maybe try that once or twice more. So today, I'm just giving you a taste for a couple of these movements, but in your home practice, you might choose to do these with a couple more repetitions, especially if you notice that it feels nice for your body. And then after taking that movement, you might come to hug the knees in towards the chest with the hands. And then go ahead and release the feet down to the mat. So from here, let's go ahead and roll over onto the side. And we'll go ahead and press ourselves up. This might be where you use the support of that towel beneath the knees, especially if where you're practicing is a little harder in nature. So I'm going to bring that towel about centered on my mat. And I'll allow that to pad my knees. So I'm going to be coming onto the hands and the knees with my hands directly beneath my shoulders, my hips over my knees, so that we're starting off in a little more of a neutral tabletop position. So I'm in this neutral position to begin. I'm grounding down and resisting away from the ground at the same time. I'll inhale, and then as I exhale, I'm going to start to curl my tailbone under and round into the spine, chin tucks in towards the chest. As I inhale, I'll reach my tail back behind me as I start to open the front body a little bit more. And as I exhale, I'll curl the tailbone under. Spine rounds, feeling that stretch through the back body. Inhaling, I'll reach the tail forward, gently arch. And so let's do that a couple more times on your own. Really nice to wake up the spine here. And as you next exhale, that's where we have the spine rounded. We'll pause, and then we'll sink the hips back towards the heels, taking child's pose. So if this feels troublesome for the knees, or if it just feels better on the back, you might even do a version where you're curling the toes under. This would be easier to do if you were shoeless. Take a couple of breaths into the back side of the body as you start to feel a little more awareness in through your arms. And then as you ground down through the palms, so in other words, I'm not moving my hands, I'll slowly come up to hands and knees. I'm going to keep my knees bent as I lift them off the mat. And as I keep my knees bent, I'll go ahead and press my belly and my chest towards the tops of my thighs. In other words, I'm trying to elongate from the wrist to the shoulder to the hip. It's almost as if my hips are reaching in opposition to my hands that are pressing the mat forward. And then from here, we'll start to wake up the backs of the legs, bicycling the legs, reaching one heel towards the ground as the opposite knee bends. Just waking up backs of legs that tend to get tight, again, from all of those bent knee positions. Once we've taken some movement, we might choose to find stillness in the pose. So if we're tighter in nature, we might keep the knees a little more bent. Some of you might work towards straighter legs. And then after a bit of time, you'll bend the knees and you'll start to baby step the feet in towards the hands. So I'm going to step over my towel. I might even walk my hands towards my feet. And then you'll notice I'm resting my belly, my chest on the tops of the thighs. I'm on my fingertips, attempting to maintain length of spine. You could even potentially come up higher on the shins. And then I'll press into my feet. I'll firm up the legs a little bit more as I slowly rise up, leading with the chest. And I'll take a couple moments just getting used to being standing, as sometimes we can get a little lightheaded in that transition. And then I'll go ahead and move my towel off to the side. I might even towel off for a moment. And then I'll come to find my racket. So we're going to take a posture called mountain pose. So mountain pose is sort of the ready position of the yoga postures, and that it sets a scene for all of the other standing postures. So I'll let my feet be about hips width apart. I'll press into the ground. Notice how I'm bending my knees in order to straighten the legs, in order to firm the legs a little bit more. As I find strength in the legs, I'm going to stand up a little bit taller. Okay, so I might feel that for a moment. I might even bring the racket in my hands as if I were in the ready position, not quite yet bending the knees. And now take the racket between the hands. So it doesn't matter which end you have in which hand, but gently pull out on that racket for a moment. And as you next inhale, come to reach the arms up overhead. As you exhale, lower the arms down while maintaining that gentle tension. And let's try that 2 more times, as if you're trying to grow yourself a little bit taller. Again, moving with your breath. Really nice, and working on this extension for the arms in preparation for the serve. Take a moment of pause, and then we're going to add on to that a little something for the volleys, getting into the side waist when you're having to reach for your volleys. So let's try that. Let's inhale, reach the arms up overhead. This time as you exhale, let's take it into a side bend. So notice my hip sways out to the side. Inhale, I'll come to center. Exhale, we'll side bend the other way. Inhale, we'll come back to center. Exhale, we'll lower the arms down. We're going to repeat that 2 more times. Inhale, reach the arms up, growing taller. Exhale, opening side body a bit. Inhale, center. Exhaling, side body in the opposite manner. Inhale, center. Exhale, release the arms. 1 more round on your own. Perhaps having to remember that pattern, just keeping you a little more engaged as you start to find a little more focus for that next tennis practice. And when you finish, you can go ahead and shake out the arms a little bit. And we'll do a really nice opening for the chest and the shoulders now that you might feel a little more warmed up. So you're going to take that racket into your left hand, and I'm going to bring that racket in that back scratch position. So you should be pretty familiar with that position, although you might be on your non-dominant side for a moment. I'm going to bring the opposite arm up and draw this elbow in a little closer towards center if possible. And then I'm going to reach my right arm out beside me. I'm going to turn the hand. I'm going to bend the elbow. I'm going to search for the racket. So if I'm tighter in nature, I might be lower down on the racket. I might be sliding my hand up the throat of the racket. It might be possible that your hands are working towards one another. Maybe, maybe not. And you'll be here for a couple moments just observing where you feel the stretching sensations of the pose, maybe the challenges of the pose. And you feel your breath just as we began. And then you'll let go with that bottom hand. Maybe shake out the arms a little bit. Maybe take a breath here. And now we'll bring the racket into the opposite hand. Again, bend the elbow. Racket comes behind you. Let's say that you'll inhale and reach that left arm up. Exhale, draw the elbow in a little closer. And now come to inhale, reach that left arm beside you. Exhale, turn the palm. Reach for the racket. Don't be surprised if this side feels a little different. This is one of those postures where we can feel pretty big differences in the body. I tend to be a little tighter on the serving arm side. So again, a couple of breaths, seeing how body responds, and seeing if you can be with the breath even if you do feel challenged. Again, just training yourself to use that as a tool in your tennis practices and matches when those challenges arise. And now go ahead and let go with that bottom hand. Shake it out a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and place the racket off to the side. I'd like you to grab the ball now. So as I grab the ball, I'm going to stand centered on my mat. I'll bring my hands to my hips for a moment. I love Warrior Two posture because it just mimics a pretty similar posture that we're in when we're hitting a ground stroke. So that's where we're going next. Hands come to the hips, step the feet apart 3.5, 4 feet. Could be wider if you're taller, if you're used to practicing Warrior Two. There are many factors here. I'm going to turn my right toes out facing the short edge of my mat, and I'm going to allow my heels to align. So if the outer edge of this back foot is parallel to the short edge of the mat, I'm now going to pick up that back heel and point it away from me slightly. I want to get a sense of really feeling grounded through the feet. Okay, and then as I feel my feet a little bit more, I can firm up the legs while allowing this back hip to come in a bit. I'm going to take the ball into my right hand as I inhale and reach the arms up overhead, and as I exhale, I'm going to bend the front knee. Okay, I'm going to let that knee bend for a moment, and then I'm going to come out of it, just getting used to the nature of the posture. Let's try that one more time. Bending the knee gently, back leg stays straight. On this last one, we'll hold it. So what I'm looking for is that knee comes to stack over the heel, so I can take a peek. If it's going past the heel, I could potentially take a slightly longer stance. There's an outer spiral of this thigh as this back leg stays nice and straight. Take the ball in your palm now. As the hands come in line with the shoulders, I want your gaze to be at the tennis ball. Just as you might train yourself to keep your eyes on the ball in practice, another very useful tool to keep your mind away from all of the other things that tend to distract us. A couple breaths as you feel what's happening in the pose, as you focus on the ball. And now slowly come on out, hands come to the hips, turn your front toes in. Take a pause, and now come to turn left toes out. So again, can we align the heels with one another? Can we pick up that back heel and reach it away a couple of inches, but get a sense of feeling grounded through your feet? So much like tennis in our strokes, we want to start from the ground up. Allow that back hip to come in a bit, belly and chest face the long edge of your mat. And now inhale, we can start with the hands on the hips this time. As you exhale, start to bend that front knee. So again, just tease out the leg. Let's try that 2 more times. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend the knee. One more time as we come to hold. Again, feeling that inner knee reach towards the outer knee. Back leg is nice and straight. Torso should be centered between the legs. Now we'll take that ball into the palm of the left hand. Again, can we gaze towards the ball, maybe noticing what we see, perhaps the seams of the ball, maybe the writing on the ball. Notice anything at all as you perhaps are aware of bodily sensation, your breath in combination with that. And now slowly come on out. Hands come to the hips, turn those left toes in, and now come to heel toe the feet together. Let's place the ball off to the side, and we'll work on a balancing posture here. So you're always welcome to stand near a fence or have a chair beside you where you have something to support you a little bit more. So balancings are really nice. Great way to bring your mind into the present moment. Also really nice for split stepping where you have to stop for those brief moments of stillness. And so feel your feet in this mountain posture like stance again, where we start nice and firm. Come to feel a little more weight on that left side, and now come up onto your right toes. So just get a taste for feeling yourself having to balance, and then open the leg out to the side, allowing your heel to meet the inner ankle of the standing leg. This might be a perfectly great place to work, or if you're wanting to come up a little higher, you might bring the sole of the foot to the calf or even above the knee, and you'll attempt to press the foot into the leg in towards the foot. Can you feel mountain posture in through your upper body? And if you're balanced, you might bring your palms together in front of the heart. Focus on something directly in front of you as you breathe. And then bring the hands to the hips. Allow that knee to point forward and maybe shake out the ankles a little bit as you make your way back into mountain posture as a base. And then bring your hands to your hips, this time starting to feel a little more weight on that right side. So can you firm up the right side as you come up onto left toes? And again, start to open the leg up from the hip a bit. Heel meets the inner ankle of the standing leg. Be realistic with where you are today. Balancings tend to change depending on what's happening in your life, what's happening in your mind. You feel much stronger on one side versus the other, especially if you've dealt with any of these tennis injuries with regards to the feet, the ankles, the knees. So hands can come in front of the heart, or you might choose to reach your arms up overhead, much like we did when we had the racket in our hands, really allowing those shoulders to move up towards the ears in opposition to that bottom foot that's reaching you down. And now come to lower the arms, hands come to the hips, point that knee forward. Again, maybe shake it out for a moment. And as you bring your palms together in front of the heart, find mountain pose. You'll stay as you are. I'm just turning to the side so that you can see. We'll work with chair pose now, which is essentially our ready position. Okay, so in fact, why don't we grab our racket again? And I'll give you a couple options to practice this pose. So I've got my feet hips width apart. You might start to feel the knees a little softer now. So in its simpler stages, you could bend the knees and stay a little more upright and maybe reach the arms out in front of you, hands in line with shoulders. So this would be one way to practice. If you wanted to take it deeper and if it felt okay for the back, you could potentially reach your arms up overhead, bend the knees a little bit more, and allow your torso to be angled towards the front edge of your mat. So it just kind of depends where you are, how deep you want to take this for the ready position, the position you take in your return of serve as well. And now inhale, stand up tall. Exhale, lower the arms. Place the racket off to the side. And now come to stand about a foot away from the very front edge of your mat. We'll start from mountain pose. As you next inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Maybe even find a little bit of an arch here. As you exhale, bend the knees as you just did. So I'm bending my knees deeply this time so that I'm hinging at my hips. I'm going to bring my hands to the mat out in front of me. I'm using this as a transition as I come back into downward facing dog. So again, remember that we can practice this with bent knees, or maybe you're feeling a little more warmed up now and it makes sense to straighten the legs a little bit more. Remember that more sensation is not necessarily better. And then you'll come to exhale, lower the knees down. Sink the hips back towards the heels for a moment. Bring the hands beside the chest as you shift your hips over to one side and bring your legs out in front of you. So again, I'll turn to the side just so that you can see a little more easily. So we'll do a little bit of a balancing here in boat pose, and we'll use that as a transition down to the ground. So my knees are bent and my hands are underneath my knees, and I'm going to feel a little more lifted through my chest. So I can feel myself balanced on my sit bones, even though in a moment you're going to feel some rocking forward and back here. So I can test out the balance a bit by lifting one foot up at a time, or I might lift both feet up. Again, maybe feeling that toggle on the sit bones. So I'm trying to be nice and tall through the spine. My navel's in towards my spine as I begin to balance. Option to reach the arms forward. And another nice way to work here is to have the hands behind the body for a little more support. You'll still get a lot of nice work here. And then as you transition down, or maybe as you feel that you're starting to fall down, you might even straighten the legs a little bit more as you rock onto the low back. And then end up hugging the knees in towards the chest with the hands. This will probably feel really nice after working with the boat pose. And now come to release the feet down to the mat. You might have to adjust on your mat a little bit as you see me doing. And so as you ground down through the feet, once again allowing the feet to be in that hips width position with the heels about 4 or 5 inches away from your backside. The arms will come down at your sides. We did a little bridging in the beginning. This time we'll come to lift up into the bridge pose, and we'll hold it. Option to tuck the shoulder blades beneath you a little bit and clasp the hands beneath the back body. So in this case, you might press your hands, your upper arms in towards the mat. You could even potentially take a hold of opposite elbows or wrists here, or take a hold of the outer edges of the mat and pull outward if the hand clasp were not an option. So take a moment to reach your knees forward, your tail lengthens towards your heels. Feel that nice opening through your front side. And then slowly lower down. Come to hug the knees in towards the chest. And taking a moment to feel the exact opposite action in your body. And you'll keep hugging the right leg in now as you come to extend your left leg all the way down to the ground. I'm going to reach out through that heel a bit. And I'm also going to open up my right arm to my side. So I'm going to inhale, and as I exhale, I'm going to rock over to the left. So I'm coming to the baby toe side of this left foot. Essentially, I'm stacking my hips. You don't have to take it this deep if it feels too intense for the body. So really nice, bringing it full circle from our initial twisting movements to now holding it and hopefully allowing the twist to work its magic and release the body a little bit more. And then slowly roll back to center as you keep hugging that right leg in. And now allow the left leg to join the right leg as you bring hands to the left leg, and now extend the right leg all the way down. So I'll use my towel since this part is still a little warm. I'm opening this arm out beside me, taking a hold of that knee. I'll slowly roll over to my side. And you might notice as I do this, my shoulder's popping off the mat a bit, and that's okay. So you might get an extra bonus of a stretch here through your front side. Do see if you can allow the shoulder to feel heavy though. Couple breaths in this controlled twist, which is in opposition to all of the uncontrolled twists that we take in tennis. And then slowly roll back for a moment, hug both knees in towards the chest. And then we'll come to take a brief relaxation. So I'll go ahead and extend the legs all the way down. You could support beneath the knees here, maybe taking a blanket roll or a pillow if the low back doesn't feel too comfortable here. You could even cover the eyes, but let the feet be a little wider than the hips. Let the arms be a couple inches away from the sides of the body. Feel balanced. Allow yourself to grow heavier. Notice where your body meets the ground. So for a moment, be in touch with your senses a little bit more, noticing sensations of the mat, the ground beneath you. It's a really nice way to take your mind of what might be happening beyond this mat. That's just real life. Just as I notice some sounds around me, I can choose to tune in rather than tune out. So take a moment to feel body on the ground. Maybe feel the breeze as it hits my skin, along with the sunshine. I can take in any smells. Might be a little harder to taste, but you might try, or maybe just notice the absence of taste. Maybe take a moment to see. We have a couple of options here. You might choose to see yourself on the court and visualize maybe something you've been working on. And see yourself performing, be realistic, but in a way that's favorable, in a positive way. Or you could use something simple as coming back to the visual of the ball. That's something that's easy for most to think of, what it looks like. But you could even come back to the senses, noticing what it sounds like when you hit a ball. We all know the smell of a tennis ball when we open up that can. That should be a vivid smell there. And so in other words, there's no wrong way to focus. You just pick a way to focus and see if you can be there for a couple of moments. Today we'll be here just briefly. Maybe take some deeper breaths just to remind yourself of where you are in space. Maybe wiggle fingers and toes as you eventually bend your knees. Bring an arm up overhead so that you can support your head as you come over onto your side for a moment. And without making any sudden movements, go ahead and press yourself up as you come to sit, maybe with crossed legs if that's an option for you. And for a moment, feel the weight of your sit bones, the heaviness of your hips on your mat as a reminder that you're still here, you're still in your practice. Sit up nice and tall, bring your palms together in front of your heart. And let's take 3 more complete breaths here together. Last moment to be grateful for your desire to practice yoga. Maybe taking a moment to be grateful for the sport of tennis and all the things you love about the game that are ultimately more important about that than that win or that loss record that we sometimes cling to. I thank you for joining me today in this yoga for tennis session. If you enjoyed yourself, please look to our channel for more content. If I know that you're watching and you're interested, it might motivate me to create a little more content, but I have some shorter practices on the channel that you might check out, both tennis and yoga related. And happy practicing, and I hope to see you soon. Namaste.